entering year 5 of the CDL, and you think things would be changing for the better. However, there's lots of changes, but are they good? What's on, guys? Jay Hoyt back with you today. Welcome back to the Call of Duty Black Ops 6 beta. We are here on Rewind, which was one of the newer maps into the beta, right? That was like the 4th added map, if I remember correctly. And we're playing some Hardpoint. This is actually one of my first times playing in this gameplay. So I hope you guys do enjoy that in the background, right? We're using the Jackal, so you already know that gun's really stupid, but either way, we talked about it before, right? The CDL has made some really questionable decisions, and lots of organizations are kind of getting out of this space. A lot of people are merging, a lot of people are just dissolving and selling their spots and waiting on people to come in, or, you know, there's lots of organizations out there that want to come into the CDL, but, you know, what the CDL was originally, they could just never do because it just did not make sense. So I had to go back, right? I had to fact check because, you know, sometimes I don't remember everything, right? So I went back over to Wikipedia. Now, yes, I know it's Wikipedia, but it seems to all be, from what I remember, all to be accurate so far. So if you guys remember in, what was it? In, what, February? What did I saw? I just saw the date. February 2019, Activision Blizzard announced that they wanted to launch a city-based franchise league for Call of Duty, right? They did that with Overwatch. Some say that was a good thing, some say that was a bad thing, and there was lots of teams interested, mainly a lot of organizations that, I don't want to say didn't know what they were doing, but had never really been in the Call of Duty space. They just wanted to throw money in there, thought it was a good investment, and just said, here, take my money, I'm going to hire some people to figure it out. And for some people, it worked. Some people, it did not, right? Some people actually had, you know, the right people in place that knew how Call of Duty worked and, you know, made the most out of their situation. Now, in a lot of their cases, whether they haven't been in Call of Duty or haven't been in it in a long time, a lot of organizations left, a lot changed, rebranded, new owners, whatever it may be. They tried to figure it out. And throughout that entire process, now we are, I'd almost say, like halfly a new league with almost half new teams, if I think so. If I'm guessing, I'm trying to think of all the teams. I think probably a good half of them have changed already. But I had to go back, right? I had to look, right? So in November of 2020, 100 Thieves, so Nate Shott's organization, announced that they would join the league under the name of the Los Angeles Thieves, after acquiring the slot vacated by Optic Gaming Los Angeles. Now, if you guys don't remember, this was the org that Immortals had, the fake Optic, you know, not Hector's Optic, not the real Optic, but that's when Optic Gaming Los Angeles was a thing, and the real Optic was the Chicago Huntsman underneath the NRG banner. So after Optic Gaming Los Angeles was vacated for the 21-21 season, the Chicago Huntsman, which, like I said, was the real Optic in that case, was rebranded to Optic Chicago. Woo! Got Optic back as Optic Hacks, aka Hector Rodriguez, successfully reacquired the Optic brand, which is exactly what we wanted. But he could only do so much with the Optic brand, right? Obviously, legalities and, you know, paperwork and all the crap that nobody wants to deal with, that was, you know, a big thing in that time. So that was the first thing, right? Then, following the 2021 season, Optic and Envy announced a merger. So now Optic Envy, who owned Dallas Empire, merged, right? I always loved the name Optic Empire. Just would have fit, but it did not work out that way, as you still had to keep the city-based, you know, org. So couldn't do that. So after the merger, it was the Dallas Empire franchise slot was rebranded to Optic Texas. The Chicago spot was put up for sale because obviously you can't own two franchises due to, you know, conflict of interest. So then, which was then acquired by the Kraft Group, the Kraft Sports Group out of the New England, aka Boston, who owns like the New England Patriots and like those guys. And let's see, where was I? So then the Boston Breach were announced right after that for the 2022 season. All right, so we already had a few spots switch around. But we weren't done there, right? So June 1st, the Paris Legion announced that they were, after that, they're going to be relocating to Las Vegas. All right, they're going to be rebranding as the Vegas Legion, which, like, cool, right? Paris was already, like, a weird kind of thing where it's, like, an EU thing, and it was all American, they weren't very good, and they just sucked and didn't want to put any money in, and it never really seemed like they tried. And then rebranded, and I don't think they got a new ownership, but they just moved over to the U.S., and, you know, here they were. So then we weren't done yet. August of 2023, so a year ago, as of a couple weeks ago, the Florida Mutineers announced they would be rebranded to the Miami Heretics. So the Heretics team organization recently became, I guess, a bigger team where they were all from Spain. They actually did quite well at a few Call of Duty tournaments, made it through kind of the challenger side, and showed that they could kind of compete. And then they eventually got in, rebranded from the Mutineers organization, and then boom, they were there, right? So Heretics now in the league. Miami Heretics are here. But wait, there's more. And September 5th, 2023, the London Royal Ravens announced a relocation to Charlotte, North Carolina, rebranding as the Carolina Royal Ravens. And as we sit here on September 11th, lots of things to talk about that one, but not in this video. But now we enter into, like I said, today where we're, I would say, a few months away from the league starting, and we still have lots of unknowns, right? Nobody's announced rosters. Not a lot of people have announced free agency. Not a lot of people are, really confirming anything because there is so many question marks around so many things. So obviously, some of them are staying exactly the same. So Optic Texas, Atlanta FaZe, Toronto Ultra, LA Thieves, all exactly the same. Then the old New York Subliners team has been, I think, bought is the correct term, or rebranded. I'm not exactly sure what the right legal term is, but they are now Cloud9 New York, it looks like. Then you have the Miami Heretics, which look to be the same. The Boston Breach are kind of in question because their parent company is dissolving or something. So there's a lot of question marks about that. The Vancouver Surge have already changed, right, from Seattle, but I think still the same ownership group. Then you have Gen G look to be interested, Fanatics. Team Falcons already, I think this was before the announcement, but Team Falcons already announced that they have rebranded from the Vegas Legion spot. And then G2 and Rocker already have announced their partnership or whatever the right term is. But then the other teams, right? You have Carolina Royal Ravens. We already talked about the Vegas Legion. And the Los Angeles Guerrillas are another team that seem like they're kind of going to go to the side, go on the shelf, dissolve. I'm not exactly sure. But then also there's some other teams, right, that have expressed interest in getting into the CDL. And that's Complexity, who is a long time, older, almost as old as Optic and FaZe are. Complexity's been around for a long time. Then you have Space Station, which I think is a more recent kind of up-and-coming organization, right? They're big in Halo right now. And then also you have TSM, which obviously is a massive name in the esports world. So with so many question marks entering into this year, and then also the biggest thing out of them all is we're entering into year 5 and we're still at 12 teams. How are we still at 12 teams? Right, you have lots of challengers teams, lots of, I don't want to say big organizations, but lots of organizations that are more than willing to get into the esport, but you're just not expanding, right? And if you start with 12, it's there for a couple of years. All right, I get it, right? You got to start somewhere. You got to get established, figure everything out. But then after a while, you've got to grow, or you have to grow a little bit, right? There's lots of challengers teams. There's lots of players, right? Not for the lack of players. Lots of talent sitting in challengers right now. Lots of world champions sitting in challengers that, this is going to even be a separate video by itself, but a lot of these teams and organizations are going with young talent rather than established veterans and they're in the scene, and then it doesn't work for them, and then they wonder why they're not doing well, and then it's like, well, you got to kind of find a mix, right? There's lots of those good players out there that you retire that don't get picked up. Like right now, as I'm sitting in this chair, Clayster still does not have a spot on a team. A 3-time world champion, a massive name in the esports Call of Duty world, is without an offer or any type of spot. Like, that is absolutely ludicrous. That is crazy. how does Clayster, out of all people, not have a spot? Right? Even if you kind of give him some young players to work around, or give him like one other big name piece and some young talent, then you kind of have a decent mix, right? Clayster's done a lot with teams that aren't expected to do much of anything, right? If you remember back to like the Denial days, I think it was like FaZe or Envy or one of those teams back then, he kind of took some teams that weren't expected to do well and made really good runs and made a really good, performance at a lot of these tournaments. And it's not just Clayster. Obviously, there's lots of players and lots of talent down in Challengers who are free agents right now. But with so many question marks around so many of these organizations, so many of these teams, and not really knowing what the future holds for the CDL, it's starting to make you wonder, like, all right, like, we got to do something here. These guys got to get it together and kind of, stable out a little bit, because it's time, right? We're 5 years in. Maybe next year's the big year, but we got to do something, guys. We got to do just something, right? But as we close up this game, I hope you guys do agree, right? Lots of, things happening in CDL, but, we need just a little bit more, right? We need a little bit more. We got to grow. We got to get better. I'd love to know of your thoughts and comments down below in the comments section. As always, guys, if you did enjoy, hit the like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, guys, we'll see you in the next